But I think that would be pushing it too much. I'm Anthony Brown. I write and illustrate children's picture books, and I love doing it. I've been a child. I've had children of my own. I've visited many, many schools to talk to children, and I've come to realize that all children are creative. All children can draw. All children can make up stories. We unlearn how to tell stories. We unlearn how to draw. Why that is, I'm not quite sure. I think sometimes children are taught that drawing isn't serious. Making up stories isn't serious. You must concentrate on other subjects. I think that's a shame. For instance, with picture books. Children love picture books. But often I hear parents say, you don't want to read a book like that, you want to read a proper book, or you should read a proper book. And by that they mean a book without pictures. But pictures, poems, films, these things should be more accessible to children, I think, more encouragement. When I was a little boy, I'd do it. My brother and I would sort of be each make a drawing, but we'd be competing with each other and show them to my mother and say, "Oh, what do you think about these?" And she'd say, "Well, they're both lovely." And we wanted to say, "No, one must be better than another." But my parents just encouraged us. They never said, "That doesn't look much like a hand. That doesn't look much like a tree." The encouragement, I think, is incredibly important. The shape game to me is where all creativity starts. My brother and I thought we'd invented this game. We called it the shape game. One person draws an abstract shape, the other person turns it into something. We thought for many years that we'd invented it. And then I started going to schools and to different countries and find that everywhere children have invented it for them, or they've seen adults play it. So it's a universal game. We're playing the shape game. We start with nothing really, like a little shape, and it can be just a little idea in my head for a book. And so when I start a book, I don't think, "Oh yes, I'm going to do this and this and this and this and this." It's just the beginning of a tiny little thought, and as I work at it, pencil and paper, it turns into something else. And that ultimately is the shape game. Not for me, no. But by including bananas, by turning something into a banana, I am playing the shape game. The surrealists would take a ordinary object, I don't know, a shoe, and put it in a place where you wouldn't find a shoe. Put a shoe in the desert, and I don't know, a tin of beans or something. And just by putting three very ordinary things together, they make a picture which shows an extraordinary. That's what I'm doing with the bananas, really. So other than the way of transforming something, to say that, oh, the shadow on that chair looks a little bit like a hole, or comparing and transforming. It's making a metaphor, visual metaphor, I suppose.
그림자도 심상치가 않고 나뭇가지도 의미심장할 때가 있어요. 배경에 상징 장치를 즐기시는 건지.
Sometimes I do, and sometimes I don't. It depends on the story, it depends on the page I'm working on. The positioning of a branch or the colour of can convey much more than the words do. Sometimes the words would just say, I was walking in the forest. I don't know, something unusual in the branches. It's about atmospherics, I think. I really want to put as many things in the pictures that will tell us more what people are not saying, actually, how people are feeling. And I try to get these feelings in using colour, using shapes, using objects we know, using objects like bananas, changing into something else. It's all to do with what I'm trying to show in the pictures that the words don't tell, because the words are nearly always very simplistic and quite one-liners, really. See, mother, father, children. grandfather, great-grandfather. But I think that would be pushing it too much. I'm always aware that I don't want to get stuck into series. I felt I did my dad, and it was about my dad. It really was about my dad and his dressing gown. But then I thought I was not going to do my mum because I thought it would be too difficult. My mum was still alive, and somehow it felt to me that if I made fun of fathers, it's easy because I'm a father. It's like making fun of yourself. But as soon as you start making fun of women, and this isn't a sexist thing, I just felt uncomfortable putting her into situations where she might look ridiculous, like with the father, for instance. However, I did it eventually. I did my mum, and it was okay. It wasn't as good as my dad. And gradually, I think the books have got less and less good as I've gone on. So I think it's time to stop.
되게 옛날인데 이게 뭔가 성인지 감수성이 굉장히 높은, 그러니까 페미니즘적인 책을 뽑을 때도 나오거든요. 네, 어떻게 그 책을 그때 기획하시게 된 것인지.
It came directly from the family of the girl who I was to marry. In other words, my ex-wife. She lived in a household where it was like that. It was like it is in the Pink Book. The father would go out to work, boys would go to school, to a very important school, and his very important work. And then the mother would come home and cook the dinner, or cook the lunchtime, and then go back to work, and then the mother would be working very hard, and the boys would be watching the television or eating or something like that. When I look back at my own childhood, was that part of it as well? I always used to think, no, I don't think it was. I don't think we were like that. My dad was much more involved in being a father and being part of a family. But I think it was still there. I think my brother and I didn't help around the house very much. But then I started to think about our family, and maybe it was not as well balanced as I would like to think it was.
많은 화가들의 작품에서 영감을 받으신 작품들이 굉장히 많잖아요. 그런 화가들의 작품을 이제 활용하시는 이유가 있으실까요?
Well, I suppose I take all sorts of things into my books, things that interest me, things that I've experienced. Art is one of my loves. If I was making reference to anything, I would make reference to paintings. And it's a part of the way of trying to tell, although this sounds a bit educational, to introduce children to paintings they wouldn't normally see. Or the idea of them seeing the original of one of the pictures that I've borrowed from and thinking, oh, yeah, I know that picture. And again, another connection, of course, it's like the shape game where I'm taking one thing and turning it into another. Best people at playing the shape game are children. They just haven't got that, I can't draw. But when adults, when I've told them about this game, adults find that they actually can draw. I mean, drawing is actually, what is drawing? It's telling us something. It's telling us a message of some sort. I think that's another good way for parents and children together play that game. I'm going to remember. I have a difficulty remembering English names. Never mind Korean. But I do see a lot of Korean artists because there's an award, Anthony Banya, where I'm judging illustrations with new or first-time illustrators. So I've been looking at them over the years, and it's great to see the huge improvement, not because of me, but the incredible improvement in people learning about picture books and learning how they work. But there's been some really good ones.